Let's get started. This is me. For those of you who have never heard of me before, this is a German in their natural habitat on the Oktoberfest in Munich. Highly recommended. It's not as wild as the stories probably are. But I'm the founder and the CEO of Astrato Analytics. And we see here that we've also updated our Twitter. It's now called X. So you can find me online here for sure. So this was a presentation at the Snowflake Summit, so well attended and a lot of very good follow-up questions. And then we thought, you know what, why keep it a secret? Why not just have it in an online forum and record it and have you guys also see it as well. So starting with it, this is what Astrato is. This is us. It's a data analytics and data visualization solution that sits on top of Snowflake, but also expands with the so-called data applications. So you see here a couple of outputs that can be created using our solution. And for those, so it's a lot around data presentation, data interaction, analysis. But for those of you who have a good eye, you will see at the bottom left, there is a table that looks a little bit like Excel where you can edit data, insert data. And this is going to be an interesting point in what this webinar is all about. So to be clear, right, it's not a coding solution. It's not a developer platform. It's a low-code environment where this is a dashboard in edit mode that I will go through as well during the demo. But our focus has been to ensure that any user, be it advanced or even a business user, if you can use PowerPoint or slides, you should be able to get along in Astrato as well without having to write any single line of code. On the Snowflake ecosystem, we can be found under the BI category, and I appreciate that there's a lot of broad kind of ways to define BI, and some of these vendors here would argue that they're either being considered BI or not. So some other kind of recognized landscapes have put us into the visualization category. So it's somewhere in between about business user focus, data presentation is where the ecosystem is seeing us. So let's get started with this mascot here. I don't know if you recognize it in any shape or form, or if you were fortunate enough to witness it in person. I certainly was probably too young at that point, but this was one of the very first Salesforce conferences. Now, over 20 years ago, they had in San Francisco a conference where this mascot was welcoming all the attendees while they were registering and getting their name tags. And that was a little bit weird because Salesforce is a software, is a CRM solution. Why would people go to a software conference to be welcomed by a mascot who says, "No software welcome here"? But really what this was about not welcoming software or killing software as people used to know it in the past, which was clunky. The CRM solution, leading CRM solution back then was Siebel, which I don't think are as famous anymore, but it was clunky, it was unusable, and Salesforce was here to eliminate all those worries. Don't worry about installing updates. You're going to have a CRM, user-friendly solution in the cloud. So they were the ones who started with the cloud and the SaaS application movement. And very, very, very quickly, as you all know, this exploded over the last 10, 15 years. All the SaaS applications moved to the cloud. And these are a couple of the examples of the product portfolio that Salesforce on the right-hand side has. Very quickly, this expanded beyond CRM to also do support services, to also have an HR side platform, to use it for marketing, and many more line of business applications. Not just Salesforce, but also Freshworks, Zoho, all of them built all these little components that served the line of businesses with these applications focused on the specific workflows and teams that were working basically with software. And that was the revolution. However, with an explosion of SaaS applications, which were now storing data and building, people wanted to understand more about their business. So what eventually followed on is that people said, well, I want to take Salesforce, I want to take HubSpot, I want to take 3, 4, 5 applications, and I have the business question that allows me, that I want to answer across these platforms. And originally, these SaaS applications were focused very much around the workflow itself, and there was no way to analyze the data. So what everybody did, export to Excel, and Excel pivots to madness. And that's when the ascent of BI eventually started. People wanted to answer business questions that are across these various business domains. Now, of course, we became smarter about it. It's no longer Excel. And I'm not saying, yeah, Excel is still around and will have its place, but we became a bit better around how to move the data and to centralize it, which is, what the ascent of Snowflake is today. Get the data from all these SaaS applications, move them via data pipelines, put them into a centralized warehouse, organize them, and ultimately now you have the ability to query the data in any shape or form, right or left, and to answer any business question that you have. Brilliant. However, there's one problem with that, which is if I am looking and analyzing the data, I'm seeing different data perhaps where I'm working with it. So the reality today is that I'm having two screens most of the time. It's just like I do right now, dual screens. On one screen, I have my analytics and my dashboard, my BI solution, or perhaps an Excel report. And on the right-hand side, I have my CRM solution, my HubSpot automation platform, and many other cases. But there is a disconnect of data. When I enter a new deal in a CRM solution, it will not immediately reflect in my BI dashboard because it needs to reload, it needs to report, it needs to analyze it, which makes a problem because I'm generating insights on the left-hand side on my dashboard, but if I want to act on it, I have to go somewhere else. And then I change it, act on it, but I don't see the change right away. So now we're seeing a convergence of those two screens into what is becoming one screen. One screen where you have the ability to analyze the data, work with the data, and write data in one single view. So ultimately, from data insight to actioning on top of the data in one single application, ultimately closing the data analytics loop. And that's what data apps for businesses means. Enough of slides. So let me show you a couple of examples and use cases on what I mean with data apps and how actually they can become useful. So think of data scientists. Okay, they're building extremely sophisticated models on top of the data that a lot of organizations, including yours, are producing. However, if you want to run a model, you got to write Python. If you cannot write Python, you got to have a data scientist go in and they'll rerun the report with the updated parameters. But instead of doing that, is there any way we can take a data science model and put it here into a business application? And that's what we see here with the SportsGo Ad Spend Optimizer. I'm a marketing person. I want to allocate my budget for the next campaign. And I'm unsure, but we've discussed that email is actually still valuable, but we're not going to skip on video. Social media, we're going to double down on X right now. It seems like a very interesting audience, but search engine, I'm not sure right now. We are not seeing good performance, but let the model decide. So as a business user, I can put in parameters that are now being passed on to a data science model. It gets recalculated based on past performance, as you see here in January, February, March, and then it recalculates here a predicted return on investment. So I have now the ability to quickly play around with assumptions and update the model and get an answer immediately, without having to go to a data scientist whatsoever. Now, for the Snowflake enthusiasts here, this should not be new at all, because this is exactly what Streamlit is about from Snowflake. So a faster way to build and share data applications, however, predominantly for developers. So if you come here, you will see that under a repository on GitHub, which is a repository for source code, the same application here can be run and be developed that works exactly in the same way, but has to be written and has to be deployed. But instead of writing it and deploying it, with Strato, we have a low-code solution that actually, if I come here and I duplicate this, you will see it is an environment where you can drag and drop things extremely quickly, put them into the screen to then connect it to your model behind the scene without having to write a line of code. So very similar to Streamlit, but a low-code version of that. Now, of course, I can run individual models, but I will also have the ability to then see the other kind of models that were run in the past. So you can actually continue and make some more sophisticated analysis of, hey, these are various kind of models we run in the past, and you can see the results to then get a better understanding. Taking it forward, what other data science models are out there? Forecasting, of course. Forecasting against various parameters. This is a famous Python algorithm called Prophet by Meta, and I've deployed this here now in a nice user interface that gives business users the ability to choose product categories and measures and provide a forecasting time zone. So if I want to see how luxury goods will produce revenue over the next 30 days, I can use, again, the same UI to generate, to pass on those parameters, then get recalculated against the historical data that was used to train the model, to then produce for me the results in near real time. So I can do a lot of what-if simulations and help this to get better support in my decisions for my business. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, right? We're running these models to support business decisions, but maybe we can actually blend advanced analytics even closer with my standard dashboarding. So take the forecasting model here and think of it expanded. This is an example of a use case. We have various kind of states that we can select here and we can analyze. And let's say we are sitting in New York, but we are also covering with my sales team also New Jersey and Pennsylvania next to it. So I've selected now these 3 states, but I want to get a forecast of how much inventory I will need for the next quarter, for the next 12 months. So again, a model behind the scenes goes around and says, okay, for those specific states, I'm now going to give you a forecast over 12 months, not just a forecast that I can visualize, but it's also calculating that I need to make sure that I purchase enough inventory to cover the forecast in demand. So you're now starting to blend my business understanding together with advanced analytics to ultimately have a better support using machine learning models in my decision making. Very famous example as well is churn risk modeling. So this is my current my current customer list. We are perhaps a telco company. And I am personally, my name is Stephen Paul, and I can see at all my customers when they last logged in, how many support cases there's raised, how many feature requests. That's typically an indication that the customer is engaged, hence the churn risk is pretty low. However, let's perhaps look at somebody who hasn't logged in for a very long time, but actually more interesting is who's likely to churn. And you see here, there are a couple of cases such as this one, 20 support tickets, 7 feature requests. 20 support tickets is never a good thing. They're probably not very happy with the product, a bit frustrated, having issues. And if a renewal comes up, how can I best approach it? So there is obviously the churn risk based on these input parameters, but my data scientist has given a nice little calculator here where I say, okay, if I look at the customer that I am about to have a conversation with next week, what if I can offer them to reduce their monthly subscription from 3,100 here to perhaps 1,500, half it. So this is now being passed, and based on the past performance of negotiations, I can see now actually I have a chance of 38 to reduce the churn by 38%. So now I'm using the same models again with that input parameter here to work with. Now, another perfect example is I'm a real estate agent, and I have a very good understanding about the data and properties sold in my regions, and I have this dashboard that I use to support and advise my clients. But Nasser here now comes in, and I can tell him how long it's going to take to sell a property. I can perhaps choose a certain zip code to ensure I know exactly where it is. Like, are we talking about 3-bedroom properties? So there is an opportunity here to slice and dice, and I can provide him with answers. Look, this is what was sold for a free property, 5-bathroom, free bedroom, 5-bathroom property in the past. I can give you all that information. He's like, very happy. I'm like, this state agent knows this stuff. Now, Martin, he's asking me, I have a property that has 2 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1,500 square feet. How much do you think you can get for me? Well, I don't know exactly, but my data scientist is giving me a price estimator based on the historic data sold. I can input these parameters now in here and say, for this zip region, let's say it's Central Seattle, I can input those parameters, which are dynamically recalculating based on past sold prices and the correlation, and gives me an estimated price with a variance, so I can provide an answer right away from Nasser. So this is where it becomes quite interesting, and you see dashboarding to actually, this is now a data application. This is not just a data analysis. I can do action directly in the same screen. Now, this is where it becomes quite interesting. So I have these input forms. I can enter data into Snowflake as parameters. Well, if I can enter data, I can potentially now also enrich the data that I see. So data enrichment and commentary, people analytics, and feedback. So great analytics on all the employees that we have in our organization. We see the turnover rate. These are key KPIs for a typical HR team. I can select the different kind of departments, and we're now going through a review cycle. So the design team is going for a review cycle. So I can see here there are 3 employees without a feedback. And we can actually do that right away in the same application. So I can now add feedback for Bertram Cooper. Let's select him because we're now having their mid-year review, adding a feedback. You will see that a pop-up pops in. Now, and instead of triggering a data science model, I'm now just inserting very plainly numbers and comments into Snowflake. So we can say that Bertram passed their probation period. So I can now save this, and you see that I'm now writing that metadata back into the store. So on the right-hand side, it was removed, and I can now, if I clear my selection, see that this has now been added. I sorted somewhere. Here we go. Here it is. Here we go. Now, quite interestingly, this is a little Easter, not really Easter egg, but a capability of Strato. Well, okay, somebody may come in here and may say, well, I didn't see that record yesterday. Where did it come from? Is this the wrong thing? Like, I have no idea where that is. So in Snowflake, we have the ability to use time travel. Now, time travel allows to query the data at a point in time. And for those of you who are working extensively with Snowflake, you probably love that feature. It's great for backups and making sure you have snapshots without having to store them all. Well, we have exposed this as a filter. So here on the top left in Strata, we'll have the ability to select a point in time here to say, actually, when we started the webinar 20 minutes ago, that was not available. So you see here, it disappeared. So you can do nice little backtracking of all the changes that are working there. So starting from that, you have the ability to write data back into Snowflake in form of commentary or metadata, or perhaps entire record if you want to. So you have a lot of flexibilities here to build applications that are bidirectional. We can insert records directly from the same UI, maybe even reduce the target to 50,000. So a lot of flexible and creative ways that you can define. And with those UI elements, this is where it becomes interesting. You can build an entire application, almost rebuild a SaaS application where you have the ability to change records directly here and control them and update them. or you have the ability to even go really full-blown and build an entire back reporting solution that interacts with Snowflake, reads back, writes back, and has the ability to either create a new back in form of data entry, or you can actually use it as part of a workflow where I'm looking here at a high ticket that I can come and I can very easily resolve and say, okay, this is now done. So you see now you build and interact in the same way that you typically build applications, but with the data writing and reading into Snowflake in real time. So the last use case, and I'll summarize them shortly as well, is, okay, I've shown you how the application can be built. The last one is, and this is, I think, equally as important, is classic standard dashboarding. It's very often undersold in a sense, but analyzing your data is a data application. Presenting your data in a consumable way, even if it's for reading and for data exploration purposes mainly, is perfectly fine. And this is also an important thing to say, that a data application starts perhaps with analysis, evolves into writing comments, or can also go the other way around. A data science model can then be expanded to have reporting all around it. So a dashboard on its own is also considered a data application. So to summarize, where we see this in very simple, maybe almost technical terms, data apps for businesses is reading and writing data from and into Snowflake in one single screen. So, and I see this not just as a feature or capability, we see this as evolution of BI and business intelligence and data analytics in general. What started as what I call BI 1.0, reports. We want to get reports out of the systems too, so we can see what they're showing. What evolved into, actually, I just want to see the reports. I want to make them dynamic. I want to slice and dice them. I want to explore, drill down. Now, the next step and the next evolution of BI is exactly, I've read something, I've saw an insight, I want to act on it in the same single view, in the same application. BI 3.30 is all about data application, actionable read and write. That's what Astrato is all about. So to summarize the top 5 business use cases for data apps, number 1, data science models either stand alone with parameters, or it can be expanded with more reporting around it. You can build entire line of business applications like the Backtracker, or simple, enrich your existing dashboards with commentary or some more metadata. And the very last one is classic dashboarding as well, because again, a dashboard is the beginning of a journey, and you can move up and down in the use case, enrich it or reduce it, extremely flexible. So coming back to this software mascot, attending the Snow Summit now in Vegas in last June, I was thinking, okay, how will this mascot, if Snowflake decided to have such a mascot next year, what would it look like? Or not what it would look like, but what would it say? And this is, of course, one for the stars, but my guess is going to be, since we're talking about data applications, we're talking about software applications should not have a database. Software should be there, but they should not hold their own data. The data should remain in a single source of truth. So we see the future to be like this. A lot of SaaS applications that eventually get rewritten, either as native apps or perhaps as small kind of applications in-house for specific use cases. But really, the data should never move. Data should remain in Snowflake or in your data store. You can read it, you can write it, and in the periphery, everything interacts in the same way with business users as they did before. So no data movement, zero copy data applications. That's our vision. That's the vision of Snowflake. That's the vision we believe in. And that's the vision that Astrato enables today for everyone to get started and build their data applications in the cloud with it. So with this, almost close on time. I wanted to keep it short, but thank you very much for the attention. I hope this was useful, insightful, inspirational. And we have a few minutes left for questions. So me and Nasser are very happy to take them on. And yeah, with this, Nasser,
Yes, the first question is an excellent question. It is, are users able to share interactive dashboards with individuals outside of their organization in a secure way? Does it require additional expenses, license purchases? This is a question I've encountered a lot with regards to Power BI and Tableau.
Yeah, so I think there's two elements to this, right? One is a licensing term, which is licensing, which is always a commercial, can always be figured out. With a Strata in particular, there's a consumption-based model, so it's only pay for what you use. However, from a data perspective, that's where it becomes interesting. How do I share my data to somebody? How do I enable somebody to interact with my data? And this is where we're just relaying to Snowflake. Snowflake has data sharing. Snowflake can give people access, and we are just inheriting that. So Strata doesn't have an additional data security layer around it. It inherits it with a single sign-on authentication method. So it means well done once in Snowflake, and whatever Snowflake permits, it gets shared, and data sharing comes into play here, and where it becomes extremely powerful. So this is how we are envisioning this to happen.
So essentially, your dashboards are essentially embedded, and they just copy the security model you've got built into your data warehouse. That's an excellent answer. Thank you. Martin, the next question is, does this apply outside Snowflake? The other databases like DB2, Netezza, Oracle, etc.?
So we with Snowflake, we're obviously Snowflake first as a product. However, at the end of the day, we speak SQL. So we already have a couple of new data connections beyond Snowflake. So Postgres, Google BigQuery, Dreamio, and Databricks is going to come extremely soon, as soon as next week. However, it's going to be data storages that are hosted in the cloud. So I'm not sure about Oracle and Netezza performance server. However, if it's in the cloud, we should be able to add a new connector in the future. However, cloud data stores are the priority.
We're kind of out of time. Very, very briefly, Martin, question about if you are BI1, does it make sense to jump straight to BI 3.0 and skip BI 2?
So I don't see this as a stepping stone personally, and I don't think it is. So coming back to this slide here, it's not a stepping stone, it's an evolution. So BI 3.0 is also BI 2.0 and is BI 1.0. So obviously, I would always recommend, if you have the opportunity to set up and explore a new BI analytics solution for your organization or your business unit, always try to get a modern one. A lot of organizations don't have that. They have a legacy solution that they need to kind of keep and run or migrate. But if you have the opportunity, go as modern as you can. You will have much more functionality, capabilities, and it's be much more easier and seamless. Remember, BI 3.0 has learned a lot from BI 1.0 and 2.0 and is hopefully the better of all three worlds. Super. Thank you very much for attending.